34-14. They will open the season at the Texans. You'll be able to see that game on CBS. Cowboys finished the preseason 0-4. The last time they did that, they went on to win the NFC East in 2018, so not necessarily a bad omen. They opened the season facing the defending Super Bowl champions, the Buccaneers. That game coming up on September the 9th. The Jaguars on the money line. They also covered the spread and the over-under 36, so the over hits. So Trevor Lawrence heads towards week 1 against the Texans. And in terms of rookie quarterbacks, starting week 1 of their rookie season, the only winner back in 2002, David Carr. Kyler Murray came close. He got a tie. How will Trevor Lawrence do? Well, we'll find out in a week's time. For reaction to the Jaguars result, let's now welcome back our Ryan Wilson. Ryan, thoughts on the performance from Trevor Lawrence? Did you see enough to give you a little bit of confidence in him as he heads towards week 1?
The only person happier than Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer is Pete Prisco. He finally got to see the Jacksonville Jaguars play something close to what we thought they might look like with a great head coach, a great college head coach anyway, and Urban Meyer in the first overall pick, and Trevor Lawrence, Trevor Lawrence has been dominating football pretty much since he stepped onto the field. This was the first time we saw him in the recent weeks where he struggled. He didn't look like the Trevor Lawrence we saw in Clemson, but this week the ball came out quicker. He seemed more confident. He wasn't holding the ball and taking a bunch of needless hits, which is what happened the first 2 preseason games. And this is what it ended up being. A lot of great passes, right on the money, fantastic play by the wide receivers, and it just gives you hope as a Jaguars fan that, okay, this is what we signed up for, because coming into this game, Jeremy, every other rookie first-round quarterback had outplayed Trevor Lawrence. That wasn't entirely Trevor's fault. You could blame the offense, you could blame Darrell Bevell, you could blame Urban Meyer, you could blame whoever, but he put it all together this week, and this is a check mark in terms of a glimmer of hope. Now, they play Houston in week 1. That's a game you feel like they have a chance to compete in for sure, especially given how Trevor Lawrence played this week. It doesn't help that Travis Etienne is going to be out for some time, but we saw Laviska Shenault step up. We know DJ Shark will be ready. James Robinson is coming back for his second year, had a really good year last year. So, again, the pieces are coming together, and I thought this – you couldn't script a better performance in the final preseason game for Trevor Lawrence than what we saw today after how the first 2 weeks transpired, which left some questions about how he might sort of come into the season as a rookie with all these expectations. You talk about that offense, James Robinson, Laviska Shenault, DJ Shark going to be ready. Did you see enough from the Jaguars offense to make you think that they might be competitive? Taking into account, of course, I mean, they're not seeing necessarily the #1 defense here in the game against the Cowboys, but did you see enough to provide you with insight into how competitive they might actually be, Ryan? Yeah, I mean, listen, they're still not a very good football team. They won 1 game last year, and there's a reason they won 1 football game. They didn't completely overhaul the roster. It certainly helps to get Trevor Lawrence. It certainly helps to get Travis Etienne. But, again, Travis Etienne is out. They did sign Marvin Jones, who I think is going to be one of those veteran presences that Trevor Lawrence leans on. All that said, the first 2 preseason games also gave us a glimpse of how this might look unless there were some changes made. So Pete Prisco's pointed this out several times. They don't have a lot of speed on this roster. So if guys aren't able to get open, that complicates things for Trevor Lawrence in the running game. And if you can't protect Trevor Lawrence, that also complicates things. So this was a step in the right direction. I think Laviska Shenault has a chance to be a breakout player. He's sort of, in my mind, an Anquan Bolden type player in that he can make catches, all the contested catches all day long. He's not going to beat you in a foot race, but he will run you over with the ball in his hands, and he can do a lot of short yardage stuff that turns into long yardage stuff. DJ Shark's a deep threat. We know that Marvin Jones can be a reliable threat down the field, and some of that balance with James Robinson. You mentioned the defense. I think that's going to be the biggest issue in terms of being competitive week in and week out. But as we sit here, they're probably the 3rd best team in the division, and we'll find out in week 1 when they play the Texans who's going to be last in the division after the first week of football. Story for the Dallas Cowboys, that battle for the quarterback 2 spot behind Dak Prescott. Both Garrett Gilbert and Cooper Rush have played very close to one another. When you look at their preseason numbers, is there a clear winner for you after what you saw today? I don't know, and I'm hesitating because a year ago, don't forget that the Cowboys had Andy Dalton, and that was sort of their backup plan in case, God forbid, Dak Prescott got hurt. Dak Prescott got hurt, and they had rolled Andy Dalton, and things still went sideways. So we saw them go through the young players last year. Ben DiNucci played as well last year at times, and it didn't look good. So I would imagine the hope is for the Cowboys that Dak Prescott, no matter what happens, he has to stay healthy. And if you're returning to a young player like we saw last year, then maybe all hope is lost for the season, even though you're playing in a division that's not particularly competitive. I don't think you're going to beat the Washington football team with your backup quarterback. So, I mean, it's great news for these young players to go out there and compete and improve, and they have improved since last year. But again, if one of those guys, you have to roll them out there to win 4 or 5 or 6 games, should, again, God forbid, Dak Prescott get hurt, I think that's a lost season. So I don't think it matters who the backup is unless he's Aaron Rodgers. Dak Prescott's number 1, and then number 2, there's a huge gap between Dak Prescott and whoever that ends up being.
So who are some of the winners and losers from this game today?
Well, this is easy. Trevor Lawrence, huge game. It was so much fun to watch him play, a lot like the quarterback we saw at Clemson for those 3 years. And I think that's a fantastic takeaway, not only for the Jaguars and for Urban Meyer, whose body language hasn't been the best the first 2 preseason games. I think they all feel better about where they're going headed into the season. As for the loser, I mean, it's hard to, I mean, you mentioned the quarterbacks played pretty well for the Cowboys, and that's great news for the backup situation. I was sort of upset that Dak Prescott didn't get a single snap this preseason. Some teams have sat their quarterbacks. Derek Carr hasn't played a snap for the Raiders, for example, but Joe Burrow played a handful of snaps finally in week 3 for the Bengals in preseason. So, you know, different strokes for different folks, I suppose. But I would like to see Dak have taken the field because of the shoulder concerns. He's supposed to be A-OK to go. We'll find out in week 1 together when they play the Buccaneers, and we'll find out pretty quickly. And I suppose another loser could be the tackling that we saw by the defense of the Cowboys as that game went on. And the defense is a huge concern for Dallas, obviously, after Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott appears to be going in the right direction. We'll find out if that defense is going to be any much better than they were a year ago when they were not good at all. And as I mentioned, you're facing Tom Brady in week 1, so that test is going to come pretty quickly for you.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.